Resident Evil 2 Remake. Do you remember this game? It was announced back in 2015 in a YouTube video that showed the producer for the game excited, waving a shirt around next to a title screen for Resident Evil 2. If you remember, this is the video that the image of a guy with this shirt that reads, "We do it," in like 3 or 4 years. That's right, Capcom conjured up their inner Sony and seemed to announce the game way too early, leading many to wonder what happened to this title since it's been pretty much radio silence since they announced it then. Well, it looks like we may finally be on the cusp of having this game shown off at this year's E3. Not only has Capcom been working on fully revealing a game and then releasing the game really within a few months. Think of like Monster Hunter World, for example, when they announced that and then released it months later. But they revealed in a recent financial briefing with investors that they will be releasing 2 bigger games by March of 2019. Resident Evil 2 Remake seems to be one of the games they are referring to, as it has seemingly been in development for at least 3 years at this point. Double check that shirt. See, we do it in about 3 years. It's been there the whole time. Okay. Well, the one thing that has not been absent this whole time, unlike any official details of this game, are supposed leaks and rumors. See, when you bring about a popular remaster, such as Resident Evil 2, you wind up with fans who are so excited, they will look for any scrap of information they can find. Kind of like Pokemon. Anyway, there was a leak back in January from, of all places, but the anonymous 4chan boards that went into detail about the game and its development. However, the details were sketchy at best, and now a new rumor has surfaced much closer to the assumed reveal at E3, coming way of RelyOnHorror.com. Keep in mind, this same site also reported on that sketchy 4chan rumors a few months back, although this time they are claiming reliable sources. Either way, grain of salt, all of that. According to the latest rumor, the Resident Evil 2 Remake is indeed a full remake and won't be a touched-up remaster. They will be using the RE engine, which powered Resident Evil 7. RE is the first 2 letters of the full engine's name, called Reach for the Moon, as it clearly shows in the logo. This engine allowed Capcom's developers to put the entire game in VR and use photorealistic shaders and environments. I probably don't have to tell you, just go take a look at how good Resident Evil 7 looks in motion. They go on to detail the game as possibly being one of the best looking games on the PlayStation 4 system to date, with the author comparing it even to God of War. That's pretty high praise. The game will supposedly be rendered in 4K at 60 frames per second on the PS4 Pro, with a more run-of-the-mill 1080p and 30 frames per second on the standard PS4. Photogrammetry scanning will also make a return to help create a photorealistic Raccoon City. This technique involves using several cameras to take high-definition shots of real textures and objects to get a more realistic look in-game. This same technique has been used before in games like Battlefront and The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. While it seems to be a bit more expensive to do, the results speak for themselves in Resident Evil 7, and DICE from Battlefront has even described the process as being faster, saving them weeks during the Battlefront development. The point of view for the camera is an issue a lot of fans have been arguing about since the announcement of the game. See, Resident Evil 2 originally used fixed camera angles that would be defined as archaic in today's standards, and here they are describing the camera as an over-the-shoulder perspective, taking inspiration from what I think and what was arguably their best Resident Evil game with Resident Evil 4. I mean, come on, who doesn't love Resident Evil 4? Let's be honest here. They go on to describe the camera as stylized, which could mean it will move during battle or float around depending on cutscenes that are taking place in real time. Their last piece of information points to outside contractors coming in who were familiar with previous Resident Evil games, specifically 2 and 4. Both Claire and Leon will have their own campaign with longer storylines and adventures than the original game. So to accomplish that, they're saying at least this will be creating like original areas and new content throughout. My overall thoughts for what I'm seeing here is they're not saying anything like crazy. Nothing here is like out of the realm of possibility. Over the shoulder is an interesting decision, although it is a more current decision as opposed to what we had way back in the 90s with a fixed camera angle. They probably just had to go with that at the time, whereas now, as we've seen with technology getting better, they can tell definitely a more immersive story, and honestly, they might be creatively stuck stifled if they are stuck to set like camera angles. Seriously, I mean, if they're stuck to a set camera angle and they can't show certain things at different sides, it might be kind of hard for them to tell a good immersive story. So I'm okay, even though it is a controversial decision. If it is true, I understand why some people will be frustrated because it's not completely original like how it was, right? But doing it this way would probably give us a whole new perspective on a game that some of us have played several times. Honestly, that would give us a better reason to play through it again because you'll see it from a different perspective. Would you really want the same game just retouched and put out? Probably not. I mean, this isn't any different than people probably getting frustrated with something like Final Fantasy VII Remake having what is not its normal battle system, having a more action-oriented battle system. I have no problem with this, and I think it'll actually just be better off. I was pretty surprised when they talked about things like God of War being visually comparative to this game as being one of the best looking games on the PS4. I'm also a little surprised that they're mentioning 4K at 60 frames per second. That seems pretty high there. If they're going to shoot for 60, it'll definitely be a dynamically scaling resolution. I mean, even God of War, which struggles at 30 frames, is dynamically shifting as well with the resolution. So I'm not expecting them to come out the gate here with 4K native at 60 frames per second. If they do, that's super impressive, and the people at Capcom should be commended and applauded, but more than likely that won't be the case. It'll just be a dynamically scaling, and I'm going to be curious if they do incorporate VR, because if it's over the shoulder, they could probably still do something with VR, even though it's not first person, whether it's a VR mode or just the whole thing can be played through like VR with, say, how we saw with Resident Evil 7. Sony seems obviously to be pushing this entire VR thing right now, so I'd be honestly all for it just to see what they can do with it. I guess the last thing is the release date, and if it will be shown at E3. I think this is a good E3 reveal for Capcom and Sony. I assume this is going to be maybe a Sony only, maybe a PlayStation 4 only game. So if they do that, then you'll probably see it on Sony's stage, much like we saw Monster Hunter World, although, to be fair, Monster Hunter World was a multi-platform game. They just had what seemed to be the marketing, so they showed it on their stage, and you saw PlayStation branding everywhere. That could still be the case here. This could still be an Xbox game as well, and then maybe Sony just has the marketing, although, to be fair, they might just jump on PlayStation, and PlayStation and Sony might even give them some money to get this thing to the finish line. Capcom is usually okay with that. They're fine with taking companies' money to get stuff done. We saw it with things like, obviously, like Street Fighter, for example, that didn't do the best, but they still probably got paid, so why do they care? I can see the same thing with Resident Evil, and honestly, it might give them really more of a budget to work with the VR option if they decide to do that. I kind of think they do decide to do that, and honestly, if they could focus more on just the PS4 Pro and the PS4, they might be able to squeeze some more juice out of that PS4 Pro, and maybe they can get closer to that native 4K image. But yeah, I would look to this E3 for that reveal. It's been 2015, it's been 3 years just since we've heard about it. They're probably working on it before then even, so it's been enough time. This would be one of Capcom's 2 big games that are coming out March 2019. So yes, I expect it to either, maybe Capcom has an event they're going to do, or they'll just throw it up on Sony's stage. As for the release date, they could do it this fall. This rumor, apparently, based on what the person who's leaking this stuff, their source is saying, they are assuming it's 2018. However, 2018's holiday is already getting kind of packed, and they had great success with Monster Hunter releasing in January, so why not release it in January? Honestly, it sounds weird since usually you don't do that because a lot of people are tapped out after Christmas, but Monster Hunter took off, did great. It's because it has a following, and it was very, very interesting to a lot of people. Guess what? This game has a following because it's Resident Evil, and it's going to be very, very interesting to a lot of people, especially people who have played this game back in the day. So I look at this and I say, okay, if they don't want to jump into a very crowded holiday, they could easily release in January, in February. Apparently March 2019 is the latest because that's where they're saying they want to have it released before the end of their fiscal year. So yeah, why not? Just, you could drop it anywhere there. You could drop it in November or December, but there's a lot of competition there. There's not usually a ton of competition in January and February. So if I had to take a guess, I'm going to say they're going to keep with the trend of January, and they're going to drop it at the end of January, maybe early February. I don't think this is a 2018 game, but I would like to be wrong because that just means we can play it sooner. Anyway, guys, as always, this is a rumor. That's why it's Rumor Wave. So none of this is confirmed yet, although we will, of course, be keeping up to date with this on E3, and we're going to have a whole E3 blowout here on the channel. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure you guys get subscribed for that. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, and please let me know what you guys think about all of these Resident Evil 2 Remake rumors. Have been following them up to this point because there's a lot of rumors out there. This isn't the first, and I'm sure it might be the last. I don't know, we'll see, because in a few weeks we might actually see it. So maybe this is the last rumor, but it's been a long journey for those following this, so I'm sure most of you are either tired of hearing this game and you just want to see it, or you're just ready for any bit of information like the Pokemon community is about this game. Let me know what you guys think about this all down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.